Today's guest is a man who wants to show people that they aren't alone going through struggles by using his own personal experiences to create poetry and novels to help others with their mental health and troubles. But before we get into this, I want to say a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Parliament Square Coffee, for allowing us to film here. But enough of this, let's get into the episode. I'll keep this short and sharp, but if you could like, share, subscribe, it would mean the absolute world. It'll allow me to open up new doors to find more amazing guests who have stories that need sharing. So we'll be able to do that. We'll be able to grow the podcast to its full potential. And this is all going to value you. So if you could do this for me, it would mean the world. Thank you for all the support so far. And there's more amazing stuff to come. Enjoy the episode. So, Darryl, do you think your tough upbringing has made you mentally stronger today and helped you become the kind of person who supports others with their struggles?
I think I'd say it's definitely given me a lot of resilience. I say, as a kid, I've been through quite a lot. It helps me understand what other people go through. Now that I'm older, I understand what my mother went through, but I think overall, and it's taken me a long time to get here, it does give me a lot more resilience. And it does, because I have that lived experience, it allows me to now at this stage be able to help others and let them know that they're not alone.
Just understanding the situation in general,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. Just having walked the walk and talked the talk and been through it. So I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Definitely, and it will help so many. Can we go into your upbringing? You said to me that your childhood was quite torturous. Why was this the case?
I mean, there's probably two ways to look at that. As a kid, looking at it from that perspective, yes, there was a lot that we went through. And it wasn't just me, it was obviously my brother and sister as well. But my stepfather being abusive towards my mother, towards me, the physical, the psychological abuse that we went through with him. And I think that's probably a reason why it's so silly, but it's probably a reason why I do not like vegetables. And I know that's silly, but yeah. There was, when we were sitting, even if it was eating like a Sunday dinner, you could not leave the table until you ate all your vegetables.
Yeah.
And psychologically, it was like you could sit there for 3 or 4 hours. And then even if you didn't eat it, he would make you stand and stare at the wall for the next 2 hours. So there was quite a lot of psychological stuff going on, and
that you've brought with you still now.
I've still brought with me. I am,
because it's a huge trauma, to be honest.
Yeah,
it can be
it is. But I mean, that's the silliest thing that I've brought with me is my dislike for vegetables. I'm 38 years old, and I am still trying to eat more vegetables. How can I enforce this to my kids? But yeah, looking at it as a child, that was traumatic. We'd done a lot of moving schools when my mum finally obviously got the courage to leave. We went into a woman's refuge, went into school there for a little bit, and then finally she got her own place close to family. And then obviously moving schools again. So we moved quite a few primary schools. But looking at it as an adult rather than looking at it as a child, I realize now that as torturous as my stepfather and everything surrounding that was, that my mother done absolutely everything for me. Now, as a kid, I would have said, "Oh, why does mother not care?" or anything like that. But she was fighting her own battles that I didn't understand until obviously an adult and going through my own struggles myself. So looking at it as an adult, she was probably one of the strongest people I've ever met.
Well, you said, I've got this down. You said that your mother and sister were two of the strongest women in your life.
Yeah. They are two very, very strong women.
Now, I understand what you mean by it must have been hard when you were younger, even a young adult, understanding what maybe how your mum was and what she was going through, but now you're older and got your daughter yourself.
Yeah.
Do you resonate with it a bit more and understand how strong and
Yeah.
how well she coped with going through this type of issues?
Yeah, to be fair, I understand it a lot better. Now, like say, as a kid, you don't understand it. You can't sort of put yourself in that mindset, and you just think, what's going on? Why is all this happening?
Mhm.
But you don't, why is my mum not wanting to get out of bed? Why is she crying? All of this stuff. You don't understand that as a kid, but as you get older, and obviously I've suffered with my own mental health in the past as well, and you realize like, oh my god, what she's been through, and my mother's still here. She's still standing, and
It must be a big inspiration for you.
it's a huge
Yeah.
inspiration. She might not know it, she will after this. So, but it's a huge inspiration for me. The fact that she is still standing with everything that she's been through.
Mm,
Um, and you know what? If I can be half the person she is, then I know I'll be doing all right.
Amazing. And then obviously we spoke on having you didn't meet your father till later life. Was this would you say this maybe affected you a bit, or
Um,
your biological
Yeah,
father,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
say?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my mother sat me down, and it was like about, I think it was about a year or two after um she left my stepfather. She sat me down and she said, "I've got something to tell you." And I says, "Okay." And she said, "Sammy's not your dad," because I was brought up to believe that my stepfather was my father.
Father.
The
I think
same
that was
as
just because of your age at the time, obviously.
Yeah, the same as my other two siblings, Courtney and Ian. Um, and I was so ecstatic hearing that. And I said to him, well, the first thing I said to Ian and Courtney know that they're not his dad, or he's not their dad, but they were. Um, so yeah, he'd reached out, and I think in a way it did have some sort of effect, um, because I think especially with a lot of like the issues that I've had, like growing up and stuff like that, I think I don't think my dad's understood um, as much, because obviously he hadn't been through what mum had been through, what Ian had been through, what Courtney had been through, what I'd been through. He didn't understand the full extent of it, and how obviously how
So
it
it was
affected me.
hard for him to put himself in that situation and
Yeah, so
understand him.
anytime I was acting out in school or acting out at home, there was no asking why I'm doing that. It was just, stop being bad, you're being stupid and stuff like that. So there was not that. And I don't necessarily think it's his fault. I wouldn't necessarily blame him for that. But I think it's just because he doesn't know the extent. And I think there has been a few times later on in life where I have said, I finally just admitted this happened to me years ago. Um, but he didn't want to know, and I don't know whether he didn't want to know because it would break him, or he didn't want to know because it was just like, um, you can't use that as an excuse, if that makes
I
sense.
understand what you mean.
But yeah,
It's hard though, maybe, because if somebody hasn't been through a situation like that themselves, it's hard for them to sometimes understand, isn't it, and put
yeah,
themselves in your shoes. Because I think just off topic in general, mental health, I think there's still a lot of people that don't have a full understanding of what people go through and how hard it actually is. Do you agree with this, or
100% agree with that.
yeah?
And I think it even goes as far as a lot of healthcare professionals as well, like your GP and stuff like that. I don't think they have a full understanding unless they've physically been through it. Now, there is quite a lot that are empathetic, but there is some that just they do not have a clue. They're just going by, what they've studied in notebooks and textbooks and stuff like that. But um, yeah, it's still, yeah, a lot of people just still they're not 100% sure what mental health is and how it affects people, and it does affect people differently. But again, unless you've been through it, it's hard to like resonate and relate and understand what other people are going through. So yeah, no, I would agree
Definitely.
generally.
So we touched on it a little bit. You said with your dad, sometimes it was a hard understanding with if you had an issue, if you were, say, naughty in school. Um, Even though you were clever, do you think you struggled in school by being labelled as, say, a naughty kid?
Um, how do I answer this one? Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
I just think it's
I was,
hard, isn't it?
yeah, I was clever. Um, but I was, and I'm not blowing my own trumpet. This is physically what my maths teacher said to my mother was he doesn't need to revise, but he needs to stop distracting the other students
Who needs to
who
revise?
need to
Yeah.
revise. That's what my maths teacher told my mother. Now, I yeah, I would take things in so easily. Even if it was half listening, I would take stuff in and it would stay in. But yeah, I got labelled. I spent a lot of time out of the classroom due to my own actions. And even there was times when I didn't even do anything, and I still got accused of stuff.
See,
And I
that's what I
think that
mean.
comes with like the
The label.
reputation,
Yeah.
the
Do you think
label.
you, don't know if you could answer this, but do you think maybe sometimes you acted up to that label because it kept getting forced, or do you think it was just an issue?
Looking looking back now, I think the way I was acting as a kid, and again, it's probably taken me till now to realize that the way I was acting as a kid was because I didn't know how to, with everything that had happened to me, I didn't know how to control my emotions and how to understand my emotions. So I think it was a case of I was putting on this front because I didn't want people to know how I was actually feeling. So yeah, there's probably times I did act up to that label, and that was just probably my defense mechanism. Acting the clown or doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing, and that was in school and out of school.
Well, it's a hard place, school, especially, isn't it? Like, it's all about trying to become the best person yourself to like fit in with people, isn't it? So
Yeah,
it's really hard for any child to navigate. So do you think it was just school wasn't right for you in a way? You
I, d-
weren't.
I don't know. It's hard to say whether school
Yeah,
wasn't right for me because I was like academic wise, I was very very smart,
yeah.
but I didn't have the patience or I didn't have the time to sit and do that. And I can sit and give every excuse under the sun, my late diagnosis of ADHD and autism, or me wearing the mask and stuff like that. But I was always more hands on. So stuff like technology and science and stuff like that, I absolutely loved, like drama and stuff like that. I loved all of that physical stuff. I hadn't got the patience to sit down right because I would get so distracted, and I just love to cause chaos in the classrooms and talk back to teachers and throw stuff and skiving from school. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that one.
Fair enough. Well, before we move on, around this topic, you said a quote that I wanted to read out and get
Mhm.
your opinion. So you said, people don't judge a person on why they have done something, more what a person has done.
Yeah.
I really resonated with that.
Yeah, and I think that's not just like I think you can take that sort of everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
Um, but yeah, people they're always very very quick to judge. And I mean, if I go into a business and I give them a whole list of everything I've done through my life, if they just judge me on everything that I've done, then they wouldn't. I wouldn't be working with them
Yeah.
businesses. Um, I'm the type of person I will not judge a book by its cover.
I think we
Um,
all should be like that though, shouldn't we?
Yeah, and I think it's hard um, because a lot of people they again it comes back to the understanding. You don't understand the reasons why people have done things, but a lot of people don't want to understand the reasons. They just see the reason,
It's easier to do that
and it's
though, isn't
easier
it?
for them to
Yeah.
do that and say, "No, you've done that. No thanks."
Yeah.
And it's simple. But I think if the world was more like that, where they took time to actually understand the person and the reasons, then I think the world would be a better place.
100%. Because it's so difficult for somebody, especially if they've got stuff in the past or behind them that people don't understand, and then to be judged for that, it's like you can never come away from it, isn't it? So it's a vicious cycle in a
Yeah.
way, isn't it?
No, it is 100% a vicious cycle. But I say that's one thing that I'm an advocate for. I don't judge a person by what they've done. I take that person on face value.
Definitely. More people should be like
Yeah.
that. Moving on, tell me about your love for writing and where it come from.
So, due to my childhood and my anger issues I had back then, again, because I wasn't able to understand my emotions and process my emotions at that time, I ended up going to anger management when I was about, I think it was about 14 when I went to anger management and sat down, and the counselor was speaking to me over and over again just to try and get, and it was like getting blood out of a stone. I just was not opening up at all. I did not want to speak to anyone. Um, but what they'd done is they had given me pen and a bit of paper and said, write it down. And that was the spark. Um, it allowed me to process things. It allowed me to reframe things in my head, like stories I was telling myself in my head. It allowed me to like reframe them. If I'm telling myself I'm not good enough and stuff, I can reframe that. I can write that down and reframe it completely and tell myself a different story. So I took it from there, and I would spend hours in my bedroom just writing song after song, and then poems and poems, and it just kept going. And it was my release. So that's when it started, and I've pretty much carried that on
Well,
up until now.
that's amazing though, because it's like you didn't have a pressure writing where maybe speaking sometimes it can be a bit of more under pressure, can't you?
Yeah,
Because you've got to know how to put your thoughts into speaking it. But sometimes maybe for you it was easier to put it on paper.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people are like that as well. A lot of
Mm,
people don't like opening up to therapists or counselors or anything like that. And again, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
mm. I've never been, but it can. I suggest it. Is it a bit like a bit awkward environment situation when you're in the room with them?
It's like this, but more awkward.
More awkward.
Yeah, it's like this, but
Yeah.
more. So yeah, it is, and especially with the questions that they're asking, the questions could be quite deep, and the questions could be quite painful, and a lot of times, anytime that I went, because I went as an adult as well, but anytime that I went, I always come out feeling worse because you're unlocking a door and it's just coming out. You're not having the chance to reframe that story. It's just coming out as it is in your head. Whereas writing, even if you're unlocking a door, and you're writing it down and you look at it for a second and you read it over and over again, and then you put a score for it and you write it again, you reframe that story and saying, oh, I'm a failure. But then you can just score that out and says, I've had a bad day today, but I have a beautiful daughter who is growing up absolutely fantastic. I've got family, I've got friends, you know, I support them, they support me. So I'm not a failure. So it's like reframing that story
Yeah.
in your head. And then when you read it that way, then it helps you feel a lot better. But when you're speaking to someone, it's hard to reframe it because yes, they can tell you that, but you have to
I
physically write
understand
it
what you
and
mean. Because
it
when
needs to
you
come
write
from
it,
you.
you can track back on it and you can read it more than once. Where
Yeah.
when you say it, you actually lose the inside, not passion, but like information of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No,
That
I know,
yeah,
I know
yeah,
what you mean. Yeah, but if like you said that, and then the therapist says to you, "Yeah, but you've had a bad day, but you've got a lovely daughter, you've got a great support network and stuff like that. You support them, they support you. You're not a failure." It doesn't have the same effect. But if you sort of reframe it yourself, and you come to that conclusion yourself, it makes you feel better. So that's why that's why we run the workshops that we do, because it allows these people to choose their own narrative. It allows these people to reframe things in their own head.
So would you recommend to anybody who needs to get out their head sometimes to open up if they haven't tried it to try writing? Uh,
It's not necessarily writing. I mean, with there's lots of different ways to do it, and we're still thinking of more ways to do it. So we've got art, we've got writing, we've got lots of different. We've got burnout recovery. We've got lots of different ways to do it because it's not with mental health. It's not one glove fits all. So we look at lots of different ways, and we're continuing to look at lots of different ways. So we're going to try and look at within fitness, music, acting. We're going to look at lots of
All
different
different
ways.
avenues to
But
suit
obviously,
people.
I'll need
Yeah.
to speak to professionals within that to
Yeah,
collaborate
of
with them.
course.
But
Yeah.
because it isn't one glove fits all. If it works for one person, it's not going to work for another. So we're looking at so many different ways.
So that is that where you got your passion for writing and stuff from? Because like you said, you didn't major in English, if I'm right, did you at all?
I did pass me English.
Yeah, no, pass, but you didn't
Just
you didn't folk
yeah, I
you
didn't
didn't
focus.
major, yeah.
No, I didn't focus on it. Obviously, it's one of the core subjects we had to do it
Yeah.
for GCSEs, but it wasn't something that I didn't take English literature or anything
No.
like that. But that's literally where my passion came from. It's just writing, and I've done it ever since, and I'm now at the stage where I'm doing it for fun. Obviously, we've mentioned obviously my novels coming out. I am writing the second novel, and I'm not using any of my own experiences in this one. This is completely different, and I'm doing it because I like it. Um, and a lot of people say, why are you writing it? This is one person reads it and it helps one person. Well, why not?
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
No matter if it's one person, 100 people,
yeah,
you've helped
exactly.
somebody, so you've done an amazing thing there. Let's go on to that then. Let's touch on your poetry and your novel that's hopefully coming out in November.
Fingers crossed. The poetry book's been out for a while. It's out on Amazon. I just wanted to do something to help to show people that they're not the only ones going through the struggles. Um, a lot of the poems that I've put into that book are from my own experiences. A lot of them are from the areas I've worked in, what I've seen, and what I've picked up. Because obviously I used to work in a homeless hostel. So we touch on like homelessness, addiction, mental health, and stuff like that. I did get a bit of help from two people. So Sky Sparks, someone I met when I was performing stand up comedy. She sent me two poems, and David Breakspear, he sent me two poems as well. So they're both in it as well. David Breakspear, uh, an absolute advocate for prison reform. I reached out to him and we talked through LinkedIn, and he spent well over half his life in prison, but now he works for a charity helping with prison reform. And he's doing a lot of incredible work at the minute. So he kindly sent me over two poems too. But the rest of them, I think there's 60 in total, are obviously my poems. And I just tried to capture as many different perspectives of as many different things, whether that's homelessness, prison release, addiction, mental health, as possible. So at least whoever reads it, one of them poems are going to resonate with them and realize, "Do you know what? I'm not the only one that feels like this." So that's the reason why I done the poetry book. With the novel, I'd planned on doing it for quite some time.
Was it more challenging than the poetry, would you say?
A lot more challenging.
Yeah.
But once I got into a rhythm, it's not a memoir, so it's not about my life, but I do use a lot of my own experiences throughout my childhood and my adulthood and stuff. So there's a lot of that goes into it. But I think once I got into a flow, I kept writing it. It just kept flowing. And I think that was because I did use a lot of my own experiences, but it was really, really difficult. Um, because I never wrote anything that big. Poems is one thing, you can finish that on one page, but if you sit and doing like 60,000 words for a novel, it's another level. But the sense of relief that I got once I'd done it, and I think it was relief the fact that I'd actually finished it, I'd followed through and finished it, but it was relief that because I used a lot of my own experiences as well, it was kind of like cathartic in the end. So like I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
because I'd sort of like I got a lot of stuff off my shoulders and I put it down into this novel
So
and stuff.
you got a lot off your chest basically
Yeah, yeah,
through putting it into
yeah.
a story. It must have been really hard though to obviously use your own experience that would you say give you that you still have kind of trauma with to put it into a story? That must have been
Yeah,
difficult.
and do you know what? There's two parts in the story that were really really hard and still to this day get me. So the first one I decided, because I didn't speak about it for 20 years, um, but I put it right at the very start of the story to get it out of the
Yeah.
way. So I was my mum's ex-boyfriend when I was 10, 11 years old. He tried to groom me. And I didn't know how to process that at the time. And I didn't speak about it for 20 years. I kept that locked inside. And to be fair, it probably messed with my head.
Must have been. Yeah.
Um, but now I can speak about it openly. I genuinely don't mind. I do speak about it openly now.
Do you think
Um,
it's helped you being able to openly speak about it, get to the stage where you can openly speak
yeah, I
about
mean,
it?
it's taken me a long time to
Yeah,
get to that stage and
understandably. Yeah,
being comfortable talking about it and realizing that, you know, it has no bearing on me.
mhm,
It doesn't, oh, you tried to groom me. That has no bearing on me at all. I'm still me. Nothing's changed with me.
yeah.
So now I'm at that stage where, yeah, I can talk about it absolutely freely. But getting that off my chest was something that I think I had to do at the very, very start of the book. So that's why that is put in at the very, very
Right at the
start of the book.
start. Yeah,
And then the other thing that, I had to put into the book, and it was so hard to write it, was obviously the passing of my brother, um, which was really really hard. So he was barely an adult, you know, um, and then he just obviously an accidental drug overdose, and it left me with lots of questions. It left me with a lot of guilt. Thinking I should have done more, I could have done more. Um,
so did you take that on yourself in a way? Did you take a bit of the, or did you take blame, shall we say?
I think I always blame myself. Nobody else did. Nobody else blamed me, but I
Yeah,
sort of took the blame myself, because at that point when it happened, obviously I'd moved over to England for the first time, and I was in another world. My mum was trying to help with my brother as much as she could. So yeah, I took quite a lot of blame myself. I don't think I've ever told anyone that, but I took quite a lot of the blame myself, feeling that I'd abandoned him and stuff like that. But at the same time, I couldn't show that, because at that time I needed to be there for my mum, for my sister.
be that
Um,
strong character in a
yeah,
way. Yeah,
I had to be that strong character,
that
and
must have been so hard for you to try and live up to being that strong character for others, but also have to inside regulate and deal with it yourself.
yeah, and do you know what? And again, I'll go I'll go back to my mum as well, um, because obviously she kept everything together through everything that she was going through. With stepfather and stuff like that. I was obviously an adult at that time, a young adult at the time. But seeing that she'd done that and she'd held the family together, she got us away from our stepfather and stuff like that. She'd done all that. It was only fair that I done that and tried to hold the family together and tried to be the strong one at that point, because at that point she couldn't be the strong one. She'd lost her son, and nobody should ever do that.
No, of course, yeah.
So I thought it was only fair. She's been strong through our childhood, so it was my turn to step up and be strong.
Wow. Well, thank you for being so open
No,
about
that's
that.
fine.
I just love the way, in general, back to the novel that you're creating and the poetry, how you want to show that people aren't alone when they're suffering, that there's a way through.
Yeah,
And I love how, because there's a lot of people who keep that to themselves and will always keep that to themselves, because obviously it is really hard to be open about that, but that you're opening up about your personal struggles, it's really, I think it's
yeah,
amazing,
and I
to be
think
honest.
that's why I'm doing it. I mean, that's why
Mm,
I'm sitting here talking to you. Is I'm more than happy to sit and talk about my struggles now, because I know it doesn't make me weaker. I know it doesn't make me any lesser of a person, and it's taken me a long time to get to this stage. And I'm not saying that people will hear this and say, "Oh, I can't speak about it." It's not going to be the flick of a switch.
of course.
But if people are reading the poetry, people are reading the novel, people are coming and to our workshops and stuff, they're going to realize, well, do you know what? I might be all right.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
nice to know that others have got through in a way. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Others have dealt with similar tragedies and issues, and they've come out the other side in a way, and
yeah,
they're doing okay.
yeah, yeah,
They're living, they're
yeah.
carrying on,
That's it, and it,
and
it shows that it's possible.
it's the hope. It's the
Yeah,
hope
it's the hope.
aspect. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it's nice just to know that when you are going through them, you feel very isolated, don't you? And like there's nobody else around you who are
yeah,
going through that. So to show that nobody's alone, it's really powerful how
yeah.
it's coming across.
And I think that is, you just said, like, feeling so alone and stuff like that. I think that is one reason why people don't speak up.
Mhm,
No, I can't speak to that person because they won't understand. No, I can't speak to that person because they won't
mhm,
understand. So I'll just keep it to myself.
mhm. Would
Um,
you say you were alone at times?
yeah,
Would you? Yeah,
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 100%. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Yeah,
yeah.
there's been once or twice where I thought about just ending everything. Um, I know I've obviously touched on it before, but like a couple of years ago, I was on the end of a bridge and thinking that I was alone. I was going through stuff with my ex-wife, um, um, and it was a someone drove by and they must have seen me and they called the police. Um, so I know I'd mentioned to you when we'd spoke before. I'd love to meet that person, um, and just say thank you
Mhm,
because I wouldn't be here now.
mm.
Um,
Well,
but yeah, at
that's
that
it.
point, I felt so alone.
Mhm. Well, that's actually a question that I was gonna ask if that's okay. You can take your time with
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
but
yeah.
if you could sit down, say, speak to the person, what would you say to them?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Literally, just thank you.
yeah,
Um, my life was worth so much more now than what it was then. Now I'm at the stage. At that time, my ex-wife wasn't allowing me to see my daughter, but now I see my daughter on a regular basis. I've done things the right way. I went through the courts. I see my daughter on a regular basis. We have everything 50-50 through the holidays,
mm,
which is more than I can ask for. I'm helping people who were where I was. And, you know, I feel good about doing it. I'm never going to be the richest person in the world, but I'm rich in what I have around me, the people I have around me, my family, my partner, my friends, my daughter. I'm rich in that respect. And I know that I can help people every single day. And that I just want to say thank you for allowing me to do that.
mm. I think that's so powerful as well. That I don't know, you maybe might never meet that person, but the say the opportunity that they've give you to carry on
Yeah.
by what maybe even just a phone call to
Yeah.
help.
And all it
It's
was a concerned
yeah,
citizen. And it's nice to see that, that person seen me sitting there at the end of the bridge and thought, that doesn't seem right.
yeah,
Let me just go and ring the police. A lot of other people would have just drove by and not cared. I don't know how many cars drove by that night,
must have
but
been yeah.
that one person that decided, you know what, I've got a sense I need to phone the police.
Wow.
So yeah,
Mm,
no, I'd like to say thank you. I'll probably never make them,
yeah,
but the fact that I'm here doing what I'm doing, um, and
being
the
there for your
the love that
family.
I've got
Yeah,
around me, yeah, I'm being there for my family.
mm, it's
Yeah.
amazing. What advice would you give to anyone who is feeling that way or going through similar things that you maybe felt at the time? Is there any advice you'd maybe give to people?
So the advice is, it's think about everyone that you've got around you. You may end your pain, but everyone else's pain won't end. They'll live with that pain when you're gone, you know, because they're all they'll be left with is your memory rather than you, and that's a pain that doesn't ever go away. Um, that's something that I've come to realize. Looking back and sitting on that bridge, I said it would have ended the pain for me there at that moment, but think of the pain my daughter would have felt, the pain that my mother would have felt, having to lose another son, my sister having to lose another brother, my partner, my friends, all the pain that they would have had, and they would have had to carry that pain for years.
through their life. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not the end. It's not the end. There always is a way. There always is people that understand,
Mhm.
and it's just a case of reaching out and finding them people.
I think that is really powerful because it's obviously, even though you're going through so much struggle yourself, the pain and the awful feelings that people who love you dearly would feel from that happening
Yeah,
would be, it would, they would live with that till they passed away themselves,
yeah,
which I think that is just amazing advice to anyone. And
yeah.
would you say, if a person is comfortable, to just speak to anyone if possible, if they're feeling like this? And
Speak to anyone, or even if you don't want to speak to anyone, start writing stuff down, um, rather than it being like a reactive measure. You're feeling at crisis point. Obviously, if you're at crisis point, you bring the crisis line, Samaritan, stuff
Mhm.
like that. Um, but when you feel yourself starting to go on to like a downward spiral, try and writing it. If you don't want to speak to anyone, try and writing it down. Try and it'll help you understand and process your emotions a lot more. But if you can reach out and speak to someone, then yeah, absolutely speak to someone. It doesn't change who you are. It doesn't make you a weak person. You're
No.
not any less of a person, especially men as well. You're not any less of a man if you say you're struggling, and
No, that's a
that's a
huge
big thing.
stigma at the moment,
Yeah,
isn't it? It's really, it's getting improving, but there's still a huge thing about you've got to be masculine. You can't show your feelings of emotions of like sadness or going through pain or not being okay. But
yeah.
we need to totally change that, don't we?
No, we do, and I think it's something that I'm embracing. And I'll be honest, I'm an emotional wreck at the minute. The older I'm getting, I'm an emotional wreck, and I don't mind crying now.
Mm.
I am at that stage. It was my birthday the other week, and my partner done me a canvas. She done me a canvas of me and my daughter.
Yeah.
Lovely big canvas for my birthday, and I broke down in tears, and I didn't even mind it. I didn't even mind breaking down in tears. That's just me releasing my emotions.
That's lovely though.
But see, a couple of years
That's your
ago,
age though, isn't it? Do you think that's to do with age in a way? That you've realised that it doesn't matter?
I think, yeah, I think it's a case of age, and I think it's a case of it doesn't make me a weak person.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It
I think it
doesn't.
actually shows your strengths more. I think
Yeah,
to be able to be in your skin and just show your emotion at that time, and you're feeling that. Okay, I'm feeling that emotion, but that doesn't make me weak or anything. I'm just expressing it at that moment in
yeah.
time.
And I think it's a case of being around like your support network as well. You've got your friends, my partner,
Hmm.
my daughter, family, stuff like that. It's that support network. Like you don't need to wear a mask. You don't need to put on a front. You can just be your unapologetic self. I think as long as you've got, it doesn't even need to be a big support network. You don't need to have hundreds of friends or anything like that. If you've got them people that you hold dearest, and you can just be unapologetically yourself. You want to show emotions, you show emotions. It's about having that safe space to be able to do that. And I think I've now got that, and I'm utilizing. My partner's probably saying, "Oh my god, he's whinging again," like looking at dogs on TV, and I'm crying. Uh, but no, it's. I think that's about having that safe space just to express yourself.
Well, I just want to say, I think it's unbelievable what you do. Like, I think it's so amazing that you're being so honest and open and really there for others. Like, maybe somebody in who listens to this conversation will relate and take something off it that they are okay. But are you proud of where you've come from and where you are now? Because I would say it is. It's a huge
Yeah,
achievement.
I mean, it's hard to say I'm proud. I'm proud that I'm still here.
Mhm.
And I'm proud, like, obviously everything that I've done as a kid and everything I've done as a young adult, because I haven't always done the best sort of things. But as me as a person now, um, I'd say I'm proud that I'm trying to give back. Because I am still here despite all my struggles. I am still here, and it's to obviously try and help other people. And I'll be honest, my brother and my mother are probably the main reasons why I do it, why I want to do it, because I know what my mum's been through, um, and she's still here. And obviously, my brother, obviously, that's when I went into, like, obviously, mental health can stem and form into addiction and stuff like that. That can be the path, and I just obviously want to do my brother proud and to do my mother proud and my sister as well. And obviously, my daughter, the older she's getting, for her to understand what I'm doing, for her to be proud. So it's not necessarily about me being proud, it's to make everyone else proud.
So this poem is called I Still Have Dreams. Even in this doorway, I dream. Not for mansions, just a flat with a kettle, a bed no one else has used. I dream of post coming through the door with my name on it, of brushing my teeth in my own sink. They think I'm finished, but I still see a future and I still believe that broken things can be rebuilt. Now, that one really touched me, as it showed me that the basic things in life, we as people who take it for granted,
Yeah.
it can be so powerful to so many people, because when you deep it and think what we have is so powerful, where there's so many out there that are struggling and
Yeah.
don't have that.
Yeah. And I think with that one, I took that inspiration from the time I worked at, like, the homeless hostel. We had loads of people coming in off the streets and stuff like that, and you know, they haven't even got like a care off address or anything like that. And it was so hard seeing them people, but being able to help them people and get them into, you know, just like a one bedroom flat, and getting them into that, they're having their own kettle, they're having their own toaster, um, and just seeing them get off the streets and having a bit of stability,
A life,
was,
isn't it? It's like a life, isn't it? Just
yeah.
having a human life, because what they go through is such a
Yeah, and again, it comes down to judgment as well. I know we touched on it earlier, but there is quite a lot of judgment on the homeless people, that, they see them, oh, they're drinking and stuff, but nobody really stops to understand the reasons. How did you get to this place? You know, what made you turn to drink? Because they're not homeless because they are addicts. You know, they became homeless and then they turned to addiction, they turned to alcohol, and that's just to numb the pain. But it's like finding that out, and that's one thing that obviously I want to do while I was working at the homeless hostel, is just find out the reason, because we're in 2025. Nobody should be homeless.
no,
Nobody should be living on the streets. And I mean, I think,
especially in this country.
yeah, especially in this country. And I mean, you can walk through the center of Liverpool, and how many veterans that you'll even see there, people that have actually served this
Yeah,
country to make this country a better place.
crazy.
So it is crazy, but I think that it comes down to the government and the red tape and everything, and it's just more needs to be done. So yeah, that's what that poem was. It was just, from my time there working at the homeless hostel, and helping the individuals that were there.
Okay. Well, as I say again, if anybody would love to purchase it, it's called Fragile Struggles for Your Strength by Darryl Craig, and you can buy it on
Amazon,
Amazon. Yeah,
Amazon, yeah.
I would definitely recommend it, especially if people need comfort of showing that they're not alone, or just want somebody else's experiences to take on advice.
Mhm.
Then I would 100% recommend it. So we briefly touched on it, but around 4 years ago, you left your sales role because it wasn't fulfilling you. You said you went into a social worker role. Why did you feel this way for one, and how did this role come to you?
So I think, like I said, I wasn't fulfilled. I got to the conclusion that I wanted to give back. Um, so just started looking, and I think my brother was a huge inspiration because the homeless hostel that I looked at, they take people in with additional needs. So whether that's addiction, whether that's mental health, and stuff like that. And I wanted to do something in a way to honor him. So I was just casually scrolling through Indeed, and I seen the role and I looked at it. Didn't have any experience whatsoever. So instead of like sending over my CV, which would have been completely irrelevant, I just sent an email. I just said, "Look, I'm just wondering if you've got any roles coming up that would be suitable for me. I've got no professional experience, but I've got lived experience X, Y, and Z." And left it at that. Didn't think anything of it at all. And then I got a phone call a couple of days later and said, "We'd like to invite you for an interview." I said, "Well, I haven't applied for any roles." And he said, "Well, the manager wants to see you." Fair enough. So I went down for the interview, not knowing what they expect, not knowing how I would answer any sort of questions whatsoever. But every question they'd ask me, I could answer straight away. Have you got experience in this? Well, yeah, actually, I do. Personal experience. And they went through absolutely everything, and it was like, wow, I actually can answer every single question. That's crazy. But I walked out of that interview not knowing what to expect, not knowing whether I'd done everything right. With a sales interview, I would have been all right. I would have walked out of the interview knowing, "Do you know what, I've nailed that." But with this one, I had no clue at all. But about 45 minutes later, I got the phone call. Um, and he said, "We want to offer you the job." And first question I asked is, "Why?" And that's honestly, I was so gobsmacked. I was
Wow,
like, "Why?" And
they
he
must have
said,
got shocked about that
"Yeah."
on the other end of the phone.
I was like, "You sound happier." I think,
Yeah,
"But I wonder why. You're ringing the
yeah,
right person." But no, he said lived experience. He says that goes a long way. He said lived experience is a lot more better than what you can
100%.
read in books.
I agree. Especially what avenue of work you were going to be going into. It was lived experience what people need, so you'd be able to understand the homeless people, what they were going
Yeah,
through, or similar in aspects of like
yeah.
what they're going through, which is so much powerful. Because like we said earlier, it's amazing that people do go into this industry through reading it through textbooks, but you can't understand the person completely.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I won't go into details, just confidentiality and stuff. But there was um, one resident there, and nobody could get through to him. I don't know whether it was because of where I was from, just like very laid back and down to earth and stuff. But one day he was struggling massively, and he just wanted to end things. And I sat there with him for about 2 hours. Um, and I wasn't even his caseworker or anything. And I sat there with him for 2 hours, and I talked him around, and he said thank you at the end. And he said, "Can you do me a favor? Can you be my caseworker going forward?"
Oh
He
wow.
says, "Because you understand, nobody else understands." And I think I was only in the job about a month at that point. I was only in the job a month. So I was still trying to find my feet. But it was at that point when he said, "You're the only one that understands." I said, "Do you know what? I made the right decision."
That must have made you feel amazing, that though.
It did.
Yeah.
And it's a complete world away from where I was.
Yeah.
Being in sales is a complete different environment.
Oh, it's completely
Um,
different, isn't it?
but do you know what? It was when he said that, he said, "You're the only one that understands me." I said, "You know what? Maybe my lived experience
Yeah.
does work well." And that's when I realized that lived experience goes a hell of a long way.
How strong it is and
Yeah, yeah,
how amazing it is. That's wow. That's
yeah.
really powerful. That give me goosebumps. That then. Can we also touch on homelessness in general? You said to me the council system for homeless can be absolutely disgusting.
Mhm.
Why is this the case?
So with the hostel that I worked in, um, the building was owned by the council, um, and they picked and chose who went in. And I don't think it should be a case of picking and choosing who gets a roof over their heads. I really don't think it should be. But they were picking and choosing. There was people that had like medical conditions, but in the council's eyes, they weren't serious enough medical conditions for them to have a roof over their heads. Um, there was even people who had to be evicted from the hostels, due to violence towards staff or other residents and stuff like that. And then they went out, went into prison again, come back around, presented themselves homeless, and then the councils put them back in,
That's just unsafe for the
endangering.
workers, though, isn't it? Like,
100%,
yeah,
absolutely. They go on these like, their behavior things, so yeah, absolutely no bad behavior at all, or you're out. But even at that point, these people, they're putting them residents. It only takes them to do one thing to hurt a resident or hurt a member of staff, and yeah, all right, they're on that behavior thing, but the damage is already done at that point. So it was quite difficult just seeing how the council themselves, and it's probably the same all over. The council themselves, they pick and choose. They play judge, jury, and executioner. Who goes into the hostel, who comes out of the hostel, and stuff like that. And
I think that's
it,
crazy though, because they're not the ones who are living it with them. Like, for example, when you were working there, you were going through what they were going through in a way because you were there with them. So it's mad that use as a collective didn't have a say in
yeah,
that. It's just it baffles me, to be honest.
yeah. And I mean, to be fair, one thing, because obviously I've obviously got the book, I've got the poetry, and then we've got obviously our workshops that we run as well. But there was always one thing that I wanted to do with homelessness, and it's still in the pipeline. The idea is still there. Um, I I'm going to speak to someone about it because I do want to make it happen at some point. Is I wanted to go around the entire country. I wanted to present myself as homeless, and I wanted to record it, and just to show people the red tape that there is,
Mm.
but at the same light, show the good that the charities are doing there, with their limited resources. But that's something that I want to do. I want to go around the country, all different areas, whether it's high density areas, upper class areas, and stuff like that, and just show how difficult it is for people.
That would be really powerful, to be
So
honest,
that's something that,
to get that point of view, because it'd be really hard. It's really hard to explain to somebody that point of view again who hasn't lived through that
yeah, who hasn't lived
experience.
through it, yeah.
So if you can film that and show it through people's vision of eyes of a video, I think that'd be really powerful.
Yeah, it is something that is in the pipeline. When it gets made, I don't know. Because like I say, I would gladly present myself as homeless and just remain homeless, not even just pretend to be homeless. I would remain homeless
Yeah.
until I got a roof over my head in every single area,
Well,
just to show.
we spoke on when you told me and when I was researching, if the person has no underlying health issues, medical issues, or mental health issues, there isn't much help, is there? Which
No,
baffles me because it's a vicious cycle that would just lead people who aren't going through these issues at the moment. It would actually lead them into them. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? It
yeah,
would do, wouldn't
and
it?
it's crazy to think that it's like, you're not going to help that person because they've got none of these underlying health issues, but what you're essentially doing is leaving them out on the
Yeah,
streets to allow them to get them
yeah.
and then get
It's
help.
crazy. It's like a
It
doctor only helping people who have got an open wound or have broke their ankle and you can see
Yeah,
that it's broken, and not helping anybody who's got an illness
yeah,
inside of them. It baffles me.
yeah. Like I say, and again, it comes down to, um, like so the mental health stuff and like going to therapy and stuff. All of that stuff is reactive, and again, with the council and choosing who goes into these hostels and stuff like that, it's all reactive because they need to be at breaking point before they can actually get a roof over their heads. But everything needs to be more proactive. We need to stop before people are getting to breaking point, whether it's mental health, whether it's homelessness and stuff like that, we need to be more proactive and not reactive. And I think that's the big problem with the country at the minute. And you can look at it through every avenue. The whole country's just reactive at the minute. Everything that the government lays out is just reactive. They're
Mm.
not being
I
proactive
like
at
that.
all.
No, let's not be let's be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Well, I also, when I was doing my research, I come across a stat and it was total rejection for main duty since 2018 is well over 100,000 people, which um, I'll tell people who don't know what main duty is. It's a legal obligation. A local council in England has to provide long term housing to someone who is homeless.
Yeah.
And okay, it's maybe been a good few years since that's been tough, but it's probably even more now. But over 100,000 people since 2018.
It's crazy when you think of it. That should be zero.
It's
Everyone should be entitled to that.
it's
Um, Everyone should be,
it's
and it
crazy.
sickens me. You're probably right; it is a lot more now. But like I say again, it comes down to the government just being reactive to everything and not proactive. Um, they say whatever they want in their manifest to get into power, but 9 times out of 10 they don't follow through. I mean, especially with homelessness,
There's no change, is there?
they're classing it in some places as antisocial behavior, being homeless, and it's ridiculous.
That's just not going to help people though, because your own government saying that about you, who's struggling, dealing with it day in day out on the street, labeling you as that. How is that person ever going to come out in a positive way? We're basically setting the homeless up for failure, to be honest, aren't we?
100%. 100%. And I know quite a few advocates for homelessness. And again, like I know we spoke about it before. Richie Thrower. Um, he's ex-military. He has his own media company. And he's doing a hell of a lot of work for veterans that are homeless.
Mm,
Because again, the government aren't doing enough, and he knows it. He knows the government aren't doing enough, and what he's doing at the minute is absolutely incredible.
mhm.
To try and help, to try and really just let people see what's actually going on, let people see the effects that it's having. And it's not just the veterans; it's all the homeless at the minute. Um, the government just they don't do enough. I can't stress that anymore. They don't.
Yeah,
And it's ridiculous. Like that statistic that you read out, that should be zero.
yeah, it should be.
Everyone should have that main duty.
Yeah,
That should be a given. That should be a human right. But unfortunately, with the way our country is, it's not.
it's not. And we're, shall we say, a very developed country compared to other countries. So
Exactly.
it's crazy. Yeah,
Exactly. We're a very, very developed country and we shouldn't be in this position in
no,
2025.
no chance, not at all. I also want to speak on, it's been a running theme throughout our conversation. How have you having an amazing circle around you? How vital has this been? Say your amazing family and your friends around you. How vital have them being around you been?
Been so vital. I mean, I lost touch with my mother and my sister um, through my marriage. I won't go into details because she'd
No.
not be happy about it. But after that, obviously, when I got back in touch with them, they were an absolute lifeline for me. Um, and like I say, my daughter, she's back in my life.
Hmm.
She's been a lifeline. My friends, obviously, one of my friends is my business partner with a business that we do because we've been through quite a lot of the
Yeah,
same
you
sort of
said that
things.
Dexter, he'd
Yeah,
be
yeah,
there
yeah,
at a drop of
yeah,
a hat for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
always. So he's been there as well, and my partner as well, Memory. She's absolutely incredible too.
Mm.
So
I love what you said about her, to be honest. You said was an achievement finding her, which just shows how amazing she must be for
yeah,
you.
it was. Um, but yeah, I don't know where I'd be without
Mhm.
all of them combined. Um, I wouldn't even say that there's one of them that sort of sticks out more than the other because, my sister my mother, my daughter, Dexter, Memory, they've all been just, and I know I've said this before, I think I mentioned to you before, but they're all lighthouses.
Yeah.
Every single one of them are lighthouses to me, and they just light things up and they lead the way.
It's such a privilege to have that, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
It's so amazing. Like, people, for anyone out there, try and find a circle. It can be family, friends who just are your lighthouse for you and
Yeah. And it doesn't
accept you
doesn't
for
even
you.
need to be a big circle.
No, it
It
can be,
doesn't, even if it's just a handful.
yeah,
Do you know what? That's all you need.
definitely. Now, obviously, as you know, I got in touch with Memory.
God, see if I
and
start whinging.
and I basically asked her opinion of you and how she sees you in her own eyes. So I'm just going to read it out, and then I want to just see your raw reaction and see what your
Okay.
opinion of it is. So,
Yeah.
Darryl is a strong, unbroken man who faces many ups and downs, but never let them weigh him down. He keeps pushing through every challenge, showing incredible perseverance and determination. He's caring, helpful, and thoughtful, always making sure everyone around him is okay and going out of his way to brighten people's day. Through his poetry books and mental health workshops, he's shown that we can achieve anything we put our heart and mind to. He's taught me that our past doesn't define us, but instead helps us grow into better versions of ourselves. A true go getter and perfectionist, Darryl gives his all to everything he does. He's a loving father who adores his daughter and has shown me what real love means. I love you. Thank you for the incredible impact you have made and continue to make in changing people's lives.
You know what? It was hard to hold back the tears there. Hard to hold back the tears.
You should have done. It would have got more views. I won't be messing.
No, that I don't know what to say.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
For somebody to say that about you.
but do you know what? Being completely honest, and I'll go back to my lighthouse like memory as well. My family, my friends, my daughter. I wouldn't be able to be that person without them. Um,
They allow
so
you to be that person.
yeah, they allow me to be that person. So I would never be that person without them. So I don't deserve any credit for that write up. They all deserve the credit for that write up.
I love that though, because that shows you even more as a person.
Yeah.
I would say it is a testament to you as well. But obviously, the way you see it as well, it is all down to them. But that just shows even more the person you are. But yeah.
Yeah, but no, that was nice. I'm gonna have a go. I want to go home as well. I'm gonna say you nearly made me cry.
Oh. Well, anyway, I have a closing tradition on this podcast, and it's called the walkaway. And the question is, if someone walked a day in your shoes, what's one lesson they'd learn?
Going through pain. Can't remember the words I used. I've sent it to you as well. I
know.
can't remember.
Don't worry. Take your time.
Going through pain can also be purpose. So I think that's round about what I meant. Obviously, going through pain, it doesn't have to solely be pain. You can use that as purpose to do good in the world. So yeah, going through pain, you can use that as purpose.
Wow.
That's probably, it's not exactly what I wrote. What I wrote was better, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
That's raw, and
I'm still reeling from what Memory wrote, but yeah.
no, that's raw, and it really gets a really good point across.
Yeah.
I want to say a huge thank you for your time. But before we end the podcast, do you want to speak on basically anything about your book where people can follow or find you for knowing the release date and where they can get it from?
Well, yeah, the poetry book's on Amazon now. So yeah, Fragile Struggles, Fear Strength. That's on Amazon now. My novel, The Architecture of Scars, is going to be out. I'm hoping by November. At the moment, it'll be on Amazon when it's out. I say It'll be all over social media as well, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. Um, but yeah, and just everyone talk.
Mhm.
If you're struggling, just talk. That's it.
Yeah, amazing. Well, like I said again, thank you for your advice. Thank you for your honesty. And thank you for helping so many others. And there'll be so many more. So thank you very much for that.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.